Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today's show is becoming a quick favorite of the audience, and that is the Pep Talk with Dr. Carl Paige, who'll be joining me in just a moment. We're going to talk about a couple peptides that have been touted as having the ability to reverse observable and biological aging. And because the research comes from Russia and from one specific group, it has not been taken seriously. In fact, Dr. Russell Ryder, let me bring Dr. Paige on. Let me do this. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm being so selfish here. How are you, Dr. Paige?
I'm doing fine.
So as I was saying a minute ago, I've had Dr. Russell Ryder on my show probably 6 or 7 times in the past 13 years. And I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he is known as the godfather of the pineal gland. He has authored over 800 papers. He has authored and co-authored about 36 books, many of them university books. And he has studied the pineal gland and its primary hormone, melatonin. But when I told him about the research out of Russia, he scoffed at it. And he said, it's never been reproduced. It's nonsense. And I've written a rebuttal paper about that, blah, blah, blah. And it's almost like I got this sense from him that there was an emotional tide afoot with that research, because we know that there was a study, and then you're probably familiar with, where they actually penelectomized rodents, and they took the pineal gland of the old rats and put it in the new rats, and vice versa. And the old rats started to take on all the attributes of the young rats, and the young rats started acting like they were really old. Do you remember that research?
I do remember that. Yeah, I can't quote where it came from, but I do recognize it. Yeah.
And so, I wanted to believe that Penalon and Epitalon could actually have this kind of age reversing effect, but no one here in the United States wanted to believe the Russians. So, first of all, when did you first learn about these two peptides, and what were your initial thoughts when you learned about them?
Well, initial thoughts were that the pineal gland was just sort of this mystery gland forever. It just made, melatonin was all we thought that it did, and it, clearly has other functions in the body. It also, just from a structural standpoint, a location standpoint, being at the epiphysis, it's his Latin name. That's the point of when you look at the primitive brain, it sits there right at the top as a single structure that, normally is a very important structure. You got one heart, it doesn't have two sides. It's got blood supply on the level of the kidneys, so very vascular blood supply.
Mm-hmm.
So doesn't have really the same blood-brain barrier that the rest of the brain has. So it's intimately designed to be in communication with the rest of the body and then provide information and feedback to the brain. So just when you just look at it from an anatomic structure, it's quite unique, and the way it's plumbed essentially means it must be pretty important.
Well, and if you compare it to a couple of the structures that we have familiarity with, kind of analogous to, when you look at the blimp, it's this huge balloon of a device, but at the very, very bottom, there's this little, appendix hanging at the bottom of it that is actually doing all the thinking and driving. And the same is true if you look at the Starship Enterprise. It's this thing all the way out over there by itself that's driving this massive ship. And when you look at the pineal gland dangling there like berries, hidden in the cubby of a tree, you think to yourself, wow, that's like the control center that's driving the brain. It's the brain's brain is what it is.
Yeah, regulatory wise and actually wise. It's got autonomic nervous innervation, parasympathetic and sympathetic. It's highly vascular. In the world of the body, it's a single organ. It's preserved across species through many millennia. That are mammalian species will have the pineal gland. So like mitochondria, we've all got mitochondria. They've been hanging around for a long time. So it's got that about it that just from a its essence standpoint make you think that it must be more important than we figured out yet.
Right, right. So we all know about melatonin, and melatonin, every day research is published that shows more evidence that melatonin may be possibly the least expensive anti-aging product you could use in your life. I mean, it's just every time you turn around, you look at the research coming forth about melatonin. It's now a recent study showed that it can actually repair damaged blood-brain barrier.
Yeah,
like that to me. That's like okay. This is a really smart molecule. This molecule is really important. And when you look at the average American, they impair their own melatonin production with poor sleep hygiene and staying up at night and eating too late and so on and so forth. So it makes a lot of sense that there's a lot of these problems going on.
Light exposures and suppressing it. It's also it's the very, very potent antioxidant effect. And that's,
yes.
Yeah, it's one of the best, actually.
Yes. So now let's move forward. And I even have a little title set up. So first we're going to talk about Epitalon. Epitalon, people have heard about Epitalon. It's available on a lot of the peptide research websites and stuff like that. But I don't really I think people think they know what it's supposed to do because of like the telephone. Well, I think it does this. And by the time it gets over there, it also cures cancer. But I don't think people really know what it's designed to do. So from a therapeutic and practitioner standpoint, what would you use Epitalon for?
The biggest thing would be normalization of sleep, getting patients who maybe have this concept you might be familiar with of adrenal fatigue, normalizing that, getting their circadian rhythms back in where they have deep sleep and get recovery time. So a lot of if you sleep deeper, which it will cause, melatonin release, then you're going to recover faster. If you may do a lot of other fancy nutritional exercise and peptide things, but if you're not getting that deep restorative sleep, which delta sleep can be augmented by Epitalon, that you won't get full recovery. So on a level, it's going to help with that. And so that's a common problem we deal with in the office is chronic fatigue. The adrenal exhaustion concept, which is probably overplayed from a adrenal exhaustion standpoint, but patients
right.
They do get chronically fatigued, and that's just a way to have that. Yeah.
So how is now the original research that came out of Russia indicated a fairly high dose. Now I'm going from memory. It was like something like 10 milligrams a day for 10 days, or for 10 days. 20 milligrams a day for 10 days, 10 milligrams a day for 20 days, once a year. Am I close that was the original?
They were very large doses, really above and beyond what the average person is going to be able to afford, on just a home use type basis. I'm not sure that you need that much, but, they must have had access to a lot of it to achieve that. Dr. Kavansan, I believe is whose research you're referring to. And of course, what you mentioned earlier, a lot of the Russian research at least kind of gets downplayed by some of the American scientists. But when you read the data, it actually looks very elegant. They did their research correctly. Maybe it's not been reproduced, but I'm not sure who's trying to reproduce it.
Well, that's the other thing. Who is really looking for gerontological breakthroughs? Not Big Pharma. Big Pharma doesn't want people to live healthier, longer lives. They want them to be dependent on these pharmaceutical drugs to get them to a shorter life. So really, no one is researching it. No one's researching it, right?
No,
with any sincerity, right?
And age management is really, I got a nice thing from our local society the other day, medical society on age management, and it basically was, managing the decline, or after the person's in that situation, obviously they need as much assistance as they can, but it's really managing the person who's already essentially failed from a biophysical standpoint. That's this concept of age management. It's not really what can we do to prolong a function, achieve quality of life. Those are not things that are at least high on the research. And like you said, the big pharma doesn't necessarily want these to get better, because then you'd have to stop taking the standard prescription medicines that really don't work. Right.
So one study that I read that was Anisimov et al. He did a study with two groups of 50 rodents. One got saline, one got Epitalon, but they got them for the duration of their lives. And what they noticed was that the 12% of the rodents that lived the longest were on the 12% of the longest lived rodents lived beyond what was considered an average lifespan for a rodent. So not only did all the rodents on it live longer, but some of them lived longer than had been predicted for their, for their little
species,
group there.
right.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, the other thing that I thought was really interesting was that it had a direct effect on DNA and telomerase. It actually lengthened telomeres. So everybody's out there taking bushwhack wheat and all this other stuff to try to lengthen telomeres today. And it looks like Epitalon does it really successfully. And in the study, they talked about how the length of telomeres was more than just preserved; it was increased from the start of the study.
Well, and in the longevity studies, particularly in the animal models, not only did the animals live longer, they unlike a lot of things, as you live longer, you're more likely to develop cancer with dysfunctional DNA transcription. So the cancer actually decreased in the Epitalon arms of the and so did evidence of damaged DNA. I'm looking for some other. There was another line that I tried to keep out to read, but it also protected chromosomes and DNA. And actually suppress the development of tumor cells in the bone marrow. Right. That's what I was looking for. It was in the bone. So you're talking about something that happens to increase lifespan, but also doesn't increase the likelihood of developing cancers, which is associated with increased lifespan. Correct. Which that's what a unique combination of attributes it has, is to prolong lifespan, but not prolong or not promote the development of cancer. So it's not driving an old car and never fixing anything. It actually, by helping those telomeres cap off and function properly with the upregulation and with the telomerase, protects the chromosomes so they can maintain their integrity and divide the way they're supposed to and transfer information downstream appropriately.
What kind of dosing are people using of Epitalon, the ones that are using this peptide to try to help improve outcomes as they age?
The doses, the large doses that you saw in the Dr. Kavinsan's research, it's really not practical for most people to use at home. 10 units on a nightly basis, ongoing, certainly promotes deep sleep. People that use their watches and monitor whether they had deep sleep or not, you will, rings. You'll notice an improvement in deep sleep with the introduction of Epitalon at night. And it's not a sleep that is drugged at all. It's just taking you down to natural deep sleep. You'll dream and then get into delta wave sleep, which is your recovery phase. And that can be used ongoing. And as far as human trials, really the big human trials really were not big, but where they used it in the cardiac patients in Russia. They had a group of cardiovascular patients. Really? Yeah. They were considered, basically the way I read this study was that these were patients who were already in pretty bad shape. It was found to be geroprotective when they used it, basically, decreased the incidence of cancer. They noticed improvement in cardiovascular function in these people who already had known significant cardiovascular disease over time, preserved kidney function over time with the use of Epitalon. So the functional lifespan of these patients was improved compared to the cohort who did not receive Epitalon. So there is some human studies done in it. It's just not been taken outside the Eastern Bloc yet. It's kind of, when I'm reading through these Russian studies, I'm a little jealous. Their anti-aging community appears to be, from a research standpoint, more robust than what we have in this country.
Yeah, but they don't have the pharmaceutical agenda there.
Right.
That plays a big role in that. I mean, it really does.
Funding, or I'm sure they've got state funding, but they're basically allowing the scientists to work in the areas where they have an interest and develop science truly, not just what's the next, purple pill or whatever that you can think of.
So the bottom line is 10 units before bed, like right at bedtime, because I know we're going to talk about DSIP later. DSIP you have to take like an hour before bed, but is this right before bed?
I wouldn't. You're not going to see. I mean, I use Epitalon at night. I don't. Sometimes I'll take it early and end up staying up watching a movie a little longer than I would like to, and it doesn't make me feel sedated. But when I do sleep, I go to deeper sleep.
Really?
So I've not noticed personally that it's been a sedative per se, and it's certainly the unfortunate once or twice I've been exposed to Ambien in the hospital. It's nothing like that at all. Awful medicine.
Yeah, I don't want that. So 10 units anytime within an hour before bed, you're fine, and that's going to improve going to improve sleep architecture, but it's also doing some other magical things. That
the magical things of mechanism of action, is that's what's not been elucidated to any great detail that I really think ought to be. This being a tetrapeptide, it's very small. It clearly crosses the blood-brain barrier, works through whatever mechanism it does to have the have its effect, and the data on it, at least in animal studies and the small amounts of human studies that we have, are very encouraging. And I guess when you look at it being an extract of a larger pool of epitalamin peptides, that's not the it's to create the effect of what you would get with epitalamin or the large pool of similar peptides. They made Epitalon as the single tetrapeptide, but it does have that sort of preserved sequence you see in a lot of very biopotent amino acids, as far as structure. Yes.
So since it's such a small peptide, it's it could be delivered intranasally. Is that how people should be using it if they're taking it for sleep, or should they do an injection? It's got to be a tetra. It's got to be under 500 Dalton if it's
small. Yeah, I can't quote the size to you, but from a size standpoint, it should be able to be delivered that way. It'll just come down to stability in solution and things like that. How long can you keep that bottle of spray and still maintain potency over a period of time?
Right. No, that makes a good point.
It wouldn't take much to break it down either.
And what about I've been threatening for 5 years now of trying the 10 10 milligrams a day, 10 units a day, 10 units a day. I'm sorry, 10 units a day for 20 days. I've actually thought about it. I actually could get the Epitalon. I know it's real. And I'm just thinking to myself, I would have to have some sort of baseline blood work done or something that looks at some sort of hallmarks of aging, and then look at them after doing a 20-day round of it and see what changes.
Sure. Biomarkers, at least in the studies they did long-term, you noticed improved glucose metabolism. So that's just melatonin levels obviously would respond significantly to that, and be, so simple things you can monitor. As you get deeper sleep, you would expect, improved LH release, improved testosterone naturally if you're, still cycling on your own to produce natural T levels. So a lot of your downstream hormones that are, triggered during the night will respond to that as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So look, what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, let's talk. You want to talk about Penalon or DSIP first? You tell me.
You pick. You pick one.
I'll surprise the audience on the other side. If you want to work with Dr. Carl Paige, you can look on the internet for the Medical Transformation Center. That's the website, medicaltransformationcenter.com. We already have people in the audience saying that they're reaching out to Dr. Paige and they love the guy. He's hard not to love. I'll tell you that right now. So let's do this. Let's take one quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Men and women, you've heard about hormone optimization. Do you feel like it's something you want to look into? RenewLifeRx.com is the place to start. Their doctors can help you with the solutions. RenewLifeRx.com has a simple process for lab work, consultation, and taking a deep dive into where your hormone levels can be improved. Superhuman Radio listeners get 30% off your initial lab work and consultation. Go to RenewLifeRx.com to schedule your no-obligation phone consultation today. Feel younger, get in better shape, and be more productive effective at renewliferx.com. Wanting to try CBD but not sure what to trust? Check out H-Hemp. H like healthy, happy, honest. H-Hemp CBD system makes it simple with one CBD tincture, available in 3 great tasting flavors, a super powerful breath spray that GQ magazine named a top CBD product, and a topical CBD balm that is simply the bomb. Relax and feel better naturally with the H-Hemp CBD system, available at hemp.com.
Be dessert again with the new 100% natural line of high-protein, low-carb Quest protein bars. I love lemon cream pie and strawberry cheesecake, but you can choose from chocolate peanut butter, coconut cashew, or cinnamon roll as well. No matter which one you try, you'll feel like you're eating dessert. But this is no ordinary dessert. With 20 grams of high-quality whey protein isolate, 17 grams of prebiotic fiber, and sweetened with stevia, these bars will make you feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to superhumanradio.com and click the Quest Protein Bar banner ad to learn more about these clean and delicious protein bars.
Now, the #1 best-selling non-hormonal anabolic agent at PredatorNutrition.com. Progenadrex has established itself as the category killer. If you're having difficulty gaining muscle while staying lean, you owe it to yourself to try Progenadrex. 100% of store reviews rated it at 5 stars, the highest possible ranking. And today, right now, there are guys pouring their hearts out in the gym with little or nothing to show for it. Don't waste any more time. Go to PredatorNutrition.com today and get Progenadrex, the world's absolute best drug-free muscle gainer.
Sleep is one of the most important factors in maintaining health and longevity. And in today's environment, with all the artificial light we're exposed to, there is nothing more important to use to protecting your sleep than blue blocking glasses. And there's only one blue blocking glasses that I will trust ever, and that's Blue Blocks, BLUBLOX. If you go to the website blueblocks.com and use the code SHR15, you'll save 15% off the single best blue blocking glasses in the world, because you can wear them comfortably and still function, watch TV, work on your computer, but it blocks all of the important blue and green light that has been responsible for shutting down melatonin production and causing people to sleep poorly. Don't waste another night of sleep without wearing Blue Blocks, BLUBLOX, tonight. Put them on at 7 p.m. and you'll be asleep by 9 p.m. and you'll get the best night's sleep you've ever had. If you've never used them before, you are missing out. BlueBlocks.com. Use the code SHR15 to save 15% off.
This is the Superhuman Channel, doing reps with the weight of the world.
Welcome back. I got to give a shout out to Uttam Sagand, who is in Calcutta and helping me grow the reach of Superhuman Radio. I hope I pronounced your name right. I'm sorry if I didn't. You can tell me later. Anyway, so now we're going to talk about another peptide. And again, these are injectable peptides, but I have a funny feeling because they're 3 and 4 peptide amino acid sequences that they're probably small enough to deliver in alternative methods. The next one we're going to talk about is DSIP. This is one that I've used, and I can't say that I really noticed a lot from it, but some people claim that they notice a lot from it. So what does DSIP stand for, Dr. Paige?
From a practical standpoint, deep sleep inducing peptide. It's got a fancier.
The guys in the lab were like, let's just make this one easy on everybody.
Yeah, that one is very easy. I can remember that even. Yeah. So it's a nanopeptide. So not as it's a little bigger than the Epitalon.
Okay.
Used a lot really in the peptide world for drug withdrawal, alcohol withdrawal, reestablishing circadian rhythm, sleep abnormalities. Kind of is found to have an effect at all levels of the HPA axis to help reestablish normal function. Can be used primarily for from a hypogonadism standpoint to augment LH production, which may be a direct effect as well as just enhancing deeper sleep to allow release of LH so that testosterone will recover. The patients I've had with it that have had the most tremendous response have been those chronic pain patients. Just, they hurt, they can't sleep. There's always some comorbid conditions that have impacted sleep there. They may sleep during the day. don't sleep at night. So when we're trying to get them off of chronic opioids, I don't prescribe those, but many patients come in here that are on those, and we try to help them get off of them. Or just from a withdrawal standpoint, when a person has decided to stop drinking or stop using those,
what about benzodiazepines? People get addicted to benzos to sleep at night, and it actually causes something called REM sleep disorder, where they actually act out their dreams. Do you think the SIP would be good to help them reestablish a good sleep patterns?
Definitely useful in that standpoint. It does work on the GABA axis. That's where the benzos are going to have their direct effect, is working on the GABA system. So it does have a significant effect there. The chronic shift disorders, I might see, people that fly across several time zones from a career standpoint and have trouble sleeping at night when they come back home, or people that have been on third shift for forever and now trying to go back to first shift. It's very useful in those areas. And just some chronic insomniacs that literally never sleep properly, never have slept properly, but don't have any clear pathophysiologic condition that we've been able to determine. It may be really more of a chronic brain injury or dysfunction that just impairs their ability to sleep.
And you take this about an hour before bed, right?
Traditionally, you would use the first dose to sort of discern an effect. Some people take it an hour or so before bed and they fall asleep. I have some patients, they take it at lunch and then they feel sleepy at night. So, it's really individualized. So you do sort of probably want to plan on that first dose, not knowing how it might impact you. So,
wouldn't it be wiser to take it once you're home from work then? Like maybe after dinner time, see how fast you start to.
Take it over the weekend, see how you respond the first time. And then you can use it, 7 out of 7 days, and then maybe take it off over time once you've developed a normal pattern sleep. Some people, if they have the chronic, really permanent sleep abnormalities, they may just want to stay on it for sleep maintenance.
Yeah, I was told to take it an hour before sleep. I didn't notice any changes in sleep architecture from it, but maybe I needed to take it earlier in the day, and so I'll give it a try.
Did you notice anything on your Oura Ring, or did you monitor it that way? Or?
I didn't have it back then. Okay. I have it now, and now I wear this, and I wear something else called a sleep-on ring. Okay. Which is actually it measures blood ox, it measures activity, it measures AHI. It measures.
So you're getting your mini sleep study, right?
Yeah, it is. And actually, I recommend to doctors that they have 4 or 5 of these in their office, because if you have a patient, you notice, fingernail clubbing, they talk about being exhausted all the time. Before you set them up for a sleep study, say, go home and sleep with this ring 2 nights in a row. Here, put it on like this, go to sleep in the morning, put it in the charger. The next night, put it on again, and then next morning, drop it off here at the office. And you can look. It'll give you AHI. You'll see their pulse ox dropping in the middle of the night when they're gasping for air. I mean, you're like, you need a CPAP. That's your problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. But I also record. So I hear myself snoring. I have a recorder that's part of a sleep app that measures activity in the bed moving. And it also has a Vox feature, voice operated transmit, they used to be, but what Vox really is just turns the mic on and would record me snoring. So I know, oh my God, last night I snored for 4 minutes between. I mean, 4 minutes is a long time for me. Usually when I do snore, I snore for a minute or two and I must readjust, and it stops.
Yeah, your body will usually flip around, especially if you're not got anything impairing your senses before you go to bed.
So the DSIP, you have to figure out your own personal time to take it, where you notice that you sleep better after you've taken it at that time. Number one, what is it, like 100 units that you take, or 100? What's the dose?
Really kind of adjustable. It's going to be traditional doses around 100 micrograms. 10 to 20 units, I think.
Okay, there you go. But that I guess I meant micrograms, 100 micrograms. Yeah. So you would take 100 micrograms of that at the experimental hour. Probably the first time you use it sometime after work, once you're home, and see if you sleep better then, and then you could creep closer towards bedtime maybe and see if it improves the depth of sleep.
Right, titrate one or the other, and if you've got the ability to have a wearable or something to give you some feedback on it, that's wonderful. It's very good, with a lot of the patients, if you just look at depression, as a diagnosis, or they will often have sleep disturbances, so if you can get them to sleep better, then many times mood improves. So, we'll use it in that scenario. if they've been on multiple medicines, not responded. I don't prescribe the traditional medicines for that in the practice I'm in now. So we're often trying to augment the effect of traditional medicines, or maybe help them get off of those medicines. That's usually most patients' goals.
Now, can you use these two peptides we've discussed so far in conjunction with your bedtime melatonin dose?
Stacking them is I don't think you're going to find a lot of, published research on that. There's going to be mostly anecdotal. They should work in conjunction quite well. But if you're going to, with Epitalon, augment melatonin release, ideally, we would want your pituitary to be releasing and making its own melatonin.
The thing I'm concerned about personally is that I've taken melatonin every night of my life for 20 years now. Some dose. That's not totally true. There are nights where I forgot it and I didn't sleep great, but I went to sleep. So do you think that my melatonin production is impaired to some degree, or is it just the rhythmicity of my pineal gland having to wake up and do some work at night?
There's maybe a couple of factors. If you're trying to stimulate release of melatonin, and you've been over-releasing it or overdosing with it, then you may have down-regulation of the ability to perceive an impact from it downstream. So post-release that might be triggered with Epitalon may be blunted a little bit if you've been taking 50 milligrams at night.
No, the most I ever take is 10. That's what I usually take between 5 and 10.
Yeah, so still not unreasonable doses. So from a theoretical standpoint, that would be an issue. Is how much have you been taking, and had you down? But if the pituitary is also not having to do its job because you're supplementing,
right?
At least, is it going to? It should over time, though, if you added in something like Epitalon and backed off your melatonin dose, be able to, if it hadn't been calcified and was totally dead, sometimes the pituitary will literally just sort of shut down and become a calcium phosphate nodule, which is not that uncommon. You'll see it common on dental X-rays or other MRIs that you get. Pituitary is calcified. It's basically,
it probably glows white like a little cherry.
Yeah, and there's been some suspicions. I don't want to get too much into that one, but really the fluoride and things. Does it have any impact on calcification?
Yeah. Okay, so basically 100 micrograms sometime before bed. Experiment with the time. I want to bring one question up before we switch gears and we come back and talk about Penalon. Dave Hartnett said he's using the BPC 157 and the TB 500 for an elbow tendon tear that happened last July. He said this stuff is life-saving. Every time somebody uses, especially BPC 157, because it's one of those peptides that you feel it working, not while it's working, but the mitigation of pain and going, wow, like this pain has been bugging me for 6 months now, this tennis elbow, you name it. And like 3 days later, it's just gone. Could that have been it? Like, that was it.
Yeah, it really does work like that, and that's a great combo. TB4 and BPC 1567 are, especially with the, collagen support, you're going to collagen cross-link it a couple different ways with that. And recovery is certainly enhanced with that. He looks like he's okay, and from a growth hormone testosterone level. So he's already got a base of, that on board. So anytime you overtrain, overlift, or get a just accidental injury, it's going to be usually a tendon insertion or, chronic tendonitis impact. And those are wonderful combos for that.
And don't ignore tendonitis, because that's why I detached my tricep. I ignored tendonitis and kept training. I'll just lighten up. I'll study kinesiology. I'll change the angles, but I'll keep training. And so when you aggravate tendonitis long enough, it becomes tendinosis. And tendinosis is the fraying of the tendon literally starts to just shred into like a worn cloth. It starts to shred into threads. And once those are all separated, it doesn't have the combined strength it had, and snap.
Yeah, the structural integrity is gone, elasticity is gone. The tendonitis is really just microscopic shearing and tearing, like you're describing more on a macro level. But the tendonitis is, if you were to split the tendon and look at it, you would see microfibrils torn.
Yeah, so that's what ended up happening. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Penalon with Dr. Carl Paige. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Are you looking for a better way to absorb the nutrients you know you need? Do what I do and start your day with lipospheric supplements from Live-On Labs. Unlike pills and powders, Live-On's patented liposomal encapsulation technology transports nutrients like vitamin C, vitamin B, glutathione, acetyl L-carnitine, and alpha-lipoic acid to where they need to be, your cells. Visit try.liveonlabs.com/Carl to learn why I take these supplements every day to help me perform in the gym and in life. That's try.liveonlabs.com/Carl.
Ever feel like you want something crunchy? From the company that gave us the Quest protein bar, now comes the Quest high protein potato chips with 21 grams of high quality protein and only 5 grams of carbs and no artificial ingredients. Just like Quest bars, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to superhumanradio.com and click the Quest High Protein Potato Chip banner ad today and get ready to be satisfied. Thanks to Quest Nutrition, chips just aren't what they used to be.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat, you'll find everything you need at Redcon One. Need help getting a good night's sleep? Try Fade Out, or the most popular pre-workout supplement on the market today, Total War. Sign up for their new Transformation Challenge and win $10,000. Or shop for apparel that people at the gym will know that you are serious about your training. Need a testosterone booster that works? Check out Boomstick. Whatever you need, you'll find the best quality supplements on the market at Redcon One. Go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON, the number 1.com, or go to superhumanradio.net and click the Redcon One banner ad today. There are a few products that I believe in the way I believe in Can-C eye drops. I've been using Can-C for 6 months now, and the changes in my vision are nothing short of amazing. Wow, that's an old commercial. The truth is, I've been using Can-C eye drops for 11 years now, and I credit Can-C eye drops as being the reason that I do not need reading glasses at 58 years old. Can-C eye drops improves the quality and health of your eyes indefinitely. That's why I both use and endorse Can-C eye drops. Go to wisechoicemedicine.com and learn about how Can-C eye drops can improve the health of your eyes and the quality of your vision today.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. We're ripped and we're ready.
Welcome back to the Pep Talk. Kirkland Werletti, who does work for the show and is a friend of mine, he came up with the name for the Pep Talk, Doc, when we said we're going to do it, because we knew that people love to talk about peptides. It's so exciting. We have a couple questions. We're going to get to your Casey, Alicia Morrow, and James Clark. I promise we will get to your questions. We're going to talk about Penalon first and just kind of stay on track. So Penalon is another one of these peptides that was studied by the Russians that they claimed could reverse biological aging. They used it to study rodents, and it actually has a big following amongst the nootropic / cognitive enhancement / that category of user out there. There's a lot of people selling Penalon.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's a very small peptide. Again, most of the data comes from the Russians, which is not a bad thing, but it's not, widely. If you do a PubMed search on it, it's just a page with mostly Russian, product of research products on it. There was one human study that did use it for organic brain syndrome or chronic polymorbidity brain syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Did show positive results and improvement, from a neuroinflammatory standpoint and from an antioxidant standpoint.
TBI, you think there's a good subject for TBI then, right?
Well, that's kind of what I would think with it. The other one that I noted on it when I reviewed him was really that they, in a rat model, that when they had hyperhomocystinemia, which is really the MTHFR SNP, that it was protective of the rat offspring and mothers that had an MTHFR defect. So it did protect
Wow.
the issues you would see from a central nervous standpoint if they had not been supplemented with activated folate.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
Cool.
It really is.
Pretty neat stuff. It would be, I'd like to see more data on that.
And there lies the problem, right? So first of all, for some reason here in the United States, we turn our nose up on anybody else's research. There's almost an attitude of pomposity amongst the medical orthodoxy, because it's like, well, that research came from this other country. Like somehow that would discount its value. But then on the other hand, you have the Russians were working hard on creating disinformation in every sphere that they could influence, and this could be just another one of them. We just don't know.
Sure.
But what would they gain out of lying about this? What would they gain out of it?
Most of the stuff was published, especially with some of the small peptides, before they even broke down the curtain, or at least they were doing the research on it. So
for themselves, they were doing it for themselves. They weren't doing it like, oh, we're going to give this to the United States and confuse the heck out of them.
They didn't want to give it to us. They wanted to keep it for their athletes and for the rest of the people. So
just by virtue of the environment that this data was created, we know that they're not going to be chasing and running in circles at nothing. They want their performance enhancement for their people.
Yeah, I'm sure that stuff goes on. I'm a little, I'm sure it goes on this side of the pond too. So I'm not going to,
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's a race. It's a race.
A little bit by money and by the big pharma side of things has corrupted some of the data that gets published. So it is.
I'm sure. They benefit the most from us distrusting everybody else's research, by the way, just for the
right.
So with Penalon, what kind of dosing are we talking about? How is this administered? Is it a nighttime thing also, or?
I'm going to claim that I don't personally prescribe this one a lot. It's available to a lot of people. I don't have access really for my, certified producers to high quality injectable versions of that at this point. I would like to. It seems like it would be relatively simple to manufacture because it's being a very small peptide.
Well, I'll tell you where there could be a potential use for it. So there's a very large percentage of people who have major depressive disorder.
Mm-hmm.
That this major depressive disorder arises from inflammation of specific areas of the regions of the brain.
Correct.
And that when you get these people on diets that reduce inflammation in general, and you remove some of the things from their environment that are causing some of these problems, their depression goes away and can be tracked as the inflammation gets less and less. And so it seems to me that Penalon, because of its powerful anti-inflammatory effects on the brain that are displayed in a lot of the literature that did come from Russia, this may be a good alternative for people who are suffering from an inflammation precipitated major depressive disorder. This is a shot that can't hurt them and may help them. What do you think?
Well, any of the neurodegenerative conditions, the autism, any of the neuroinflammatory, neuroautoimmune conditions that have an inflammatory component potentially could respond to that. There doesn't appear to be a lot of downsides, to it based on when you look at its structure and how it functions. I think as a straight nootrope, being something that you might take before you go take your finals or something, it's probably not going to be its strong point, as far as immediate impact or make you just suddenly become super genius. That may not be the most appropriate way to think of it. But like you said, TBI, any other post-infectious neuroinflammatory process, toxic mediated, hypoxic mediated. Clearly, there was hypoxia associated data on it.
Oh yes, I saw that. So when that study was indicating that the brain was without oxygen for a period of time, and this helped mitigate some of the collateral damage.
Protective effect, right? Sure.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yes.
All of the, post drowning, post stroke, even it's a lack of blood supply.
Right.
Strangulation injuries. There's all sorts of, and I think the one with because I did pediatrics as well for a while, the methylation defect and kids that have that and then unfortunately have hypoxia at birth, it'd be neat to, it's very hard to get these type of studies done in this country. So thank God that Russia's able to do some of this stuff.
Yeah, again, because they were doing it for their own people. They weren't doing it for profit.
Right.
Okay, so now, of course, people always say to me, of the 3 peptides we talked about this afternoon, but what are the side effects? Because they're so used to pharmaceuticals where it's a risk versus reward scenario. Like, yeah, you're going to get that, but we're going to stop this from happening. What are the side effects of taking these doses? Are there any known LD50s on any of these peptides?
You know, I hope you're still with me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I hear you fine.
Yeah, for the most part, that's really what's special about peptides is, you know, they are literally just sequences of amino acids. Your body will break them down into constituent amino acids and then reutilize them. So not really any known LD50 to these things. So
right.
You know, they don't drug interact with other medicines because of the same reason. They're not CYP enzyme degraded and have to be urinated or you know, passed out through the GI tract.
Right.
They're special that way.
And so for those of you watching the show going, yeah, but how do we know this stuff is good? We're buying it from a research chemical. We're not suggesting that people buy things from research chemical and peptide manufacturers. If you have one that you do business with, the doc will be back in a minute. He got disconnected. If you have one that you do business with that you trust and you think they have good stuff, that's fine. But you don't have to go black market on this stuff anymore. I'm getting you back in here, Doc. You don't have to go black market on this stuff anymore because there is a pharmacy in Nicholasville, Kentucky called Tailor Made Compounding Pharmacy, and your doctor can order these peptides and prescribe them. And they make them right at Tailor Made. I've seen their amino acid sequencers. I've seen how they don't, this is not recombinant method. They're not using E. coli and feeding it amino acids and it poops out a strand. And that's, you know, what they are doing is they're actually synthesizing these peptides in a clean environment and they are pure. And so your doctor can actually get in touch with Tailor Made and they can fill prescriptions that your doctor can write for you. Now, if your doctor says to you, I don't know anything about peptides, I can't prescribe peptides for you because I don't know anything about them. Well, then you tell your doctor to go to peptidesociety.org, and that is the International Peptide Society's website. And we don't see you, Doc. I don't know what's going on. We lost the doc. I'm going to try. I need you to disconnect one more time and try to reconnect. Anyway, I may have to carry the rest of the show, and it won't be a problem if I do, so don't worry about that. But anyway, your doctor can prescribe these peptides for you. That's the bottom line. You don't have to go black market. This isn't dark side stuff we're talking about here. These peptides are available through physicians today. Your physician just probably doesn't know that. Your physician doesn't know that they can be trained by International Peptide Society and start prescribing these peptides for you. We're going to go through these questions. This is what I wanted to do anyway. So Casey Alicia Morrow, I'm assuming that's a combo account, says, what dose of BPC and TB500 would be beneficial for recovery from umbilical hernia surgery, and how long would you want to use them? So this is true of any surgery, not just the type of surgery you're identifying here. The BPC 157 should be used anywhere from 300 micrograms to 500 micrograms twice a day for recovery surgery. And thymosin beta 4 you should use, if you can afford to, use 2 milligrams every third day. You will probably find, and I'm going to let the good doctor weigh in on that too, because we have him coming back on. Hold on a second, and I'll bring him up to speed here real quick. So, Doc, we had a listener ask the question about using BPC 157 and thymosin beta 4 post-surgery. And what I suggested was 300 micrograms to 500 micrograms of BPC 157 twice a day, and TB 500, maybe if you can afford it, 2 milligrams every third day. Those too big of doses, you think?
No, that's not inappropriate. There's, the dosing range is well within that for utilization. Sometimes you might even want to think about if it's an elective surgery, sort of preparing the body ahead of time with, dosing for, 2 to 3 days heading into the procedure, loading up on collagen support so that you have even already things in place to augment recovery. And the duration would really be dependent afterwards on what the procedure was. major procedures, muscular procedures, it might be 2 or 3 months, you might need support that you could gradually taper off of.
Look, I had 2 foot surgeries in 1 year on my left foot, and this second surgery healed in record time. But I used a 0.5 milligram of BPC every day, twice a day, every day for the first month.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I dropped to a 0.5 milligram once a day. And I just stopped using it the other day. And this was in December. So through January and February, I used at least a 0.5 milligram a day. I didn't use TB thymosin beta 4. I have a prescription for growth hormone. I went ahead and had it filled, and I used 2 IUs of growth hormone a day for the duration of my recovery, and then I stopped.
You can get TB4 and BPC 157 can be compounded in the same vial as well to minimize sticks and save a little bit of money on purchasing them too. They are stable.
That's good. That's good to know. And the other problem we have is, even you and I, off the air, we're talking about, injections and stuff like that. I would like to be able to draw 4 peptides into one syringe and inject them at one time, but I'm being told that because of the buffer, they don't buffer, and the charges.
Yeah, the charges are a big thing. They are proton donators, so when you put bioactive molecules in the same solution like that, they start turning into other things by interacting with each other. And
I've seen it with my own eyes. So I took 2 IUs of growth hormone, which normally is clear when I inject it. I took 2 IUs of growth hormone. I took 125 micrograms of GHRP6 and 100 micrograms of modified growth factor 1 through 29 and put them in the same syringe, and they turned milky. And I didn't inject it. I just threw it away.
Well, that's at least some sort of
reaction,
an aggregate, and they're going to maybe precipitate out of solution. And then, that's one thing. You may not even be able to draw it up if it does that. But the other thing is what are they turning into? You've got these sequences of amino acids that have very targeted effects in the body. The sequence is going to change. You may be adding things to that sequence. You may be deleting things from an amino acid standpoint. It's just not the same chemical at that point.
Right. Let's go to Dylan Goutreau. He's saying anything. Oh, wait. Here, James Clark says, are there any peptides that help with genetic high cholesterol? I have an opinion about this, Doc. I'm going to let you weigh in first.
First, the hallmark there would be modify your diet, which would be appropriate as much as possible. Exercise. There's a lot of things you can do before you actually medicate cholesterol. And then you would want to know if you had an inflammatory response associated with high cholesterol. So a lot of people have high lipids and don't show any plaque formation with it. So that would need to be evaluated. But, just IGF-1 support, your CJC 1295 ipamorelin is pleiotropic, affects your entire body metabolically. And just like it may move some of your other aging parameters back into the metabolically back into your mid-30s or so, it can move lipid panels. Just my own personal lipid panel LDL particle number dropped quite precipitously once I introduced growth hormone support.
So you're talking about all the secretagogues, GHRP6, modified ipamorelin, all of them. Yes. They all do that. Yeah. Now, this is my opinion, and I'm not a doctor. So there's no such thing as genetically high cholesterol. Yes, you got your genes from your family, but you also got the foods that you love from your family, and you got the way that you eat from your family. And while you can't change your genetics, you could change your outcome by changing your diet. Don't listen to your doctor when your doctor tells you, "I'm sorry, Doc. I'm sorry. Don't listen to your doctor unless he's Dr. Carl Paige. But Dr. Paige will tell you the same thing. It's not the fat in your diet that's causing cholesterol. It's the sugar and the carbs in your diet. If you stop eating the bread, the pasta, the stuff that they keep telling you is heart healthy, that's really not heart healthy. And it's not a conspiracy theory either. Okay. But the bottom line is you cut out the carbs. You go to a high protein, moderate fat, low carb diet. You do it for 2 or 3 months. Your cholesterol may go up a little bit in the beginning, but you give it 2 weeks and your cholesterol will come right down and it will stay down and you won't even need cholesterol meds. This idea that cholesterol is genetic is the pharmaceutical industry's approach to making you feel like, oh, it's not your fault. Don't worry about it. We just give you a pill. Everything will be okay. No, It is your fault. It's the foods you choose. Again, if you choose better foods, you won't have high cholesterol and you won't need cholesterol medication. Now, again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a big buffoon over here doing a radio show. But
There are a couple of syndromes of familial hypercholesterolemia, hypertriglyceridemia, where you can get triglycerides into the tens of thousands without even really trying that hard. But they're rare, and you don't. That's not the vast majority of people who have lipid issues, for sure. And you're absolutely right. Lifestyle modification, even in the pharmaceutical industry's medicines they push for this stuff, always say this was studied in conjunction with lifestyle modification. That's never emphasized in any of the marketing stuff you see as a doctor in your office, or even the doctors unfortunately don't have time a lot of times to work on that, or may not even be educated in what appropriate lifestyle would help modify a patient's lipid inflammatory risk parameters.
What's funny, Doc? People who finally turn to gastric bypass surgery, they're told, okay, gastric bypass surgery doesn't work if you don't change the way you eat, start to exercise more, and start supplementing. And I say to myself, why not try that first? Why not try doing the things that you will have to do for the gastric bypass surgery to be a success before you have the gastric bypass surgery? I
agree, but a lot of times it's getting patients to make that commitment.
I know, compliance,
comorbidities, and a lot of times with the extreme obesity, there's mental illness associated with it. So, it's very difficult. So I don't want to pick on those people, but
no, I know.
In controlled settings and do modify their diet, it does work.
So listen to this guy. This is Dylan Goutreau. He's in Texas. He says, anything in the works that would work like a benzo for anxiety. I guess he was taking them for sleep.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Well, they're very hard to come off of, obviously. Your brain really gets altered by being on the benzos for a long time. But, something like Selank, might be useful.
Well, I think he said he tried Selank.
Yeah. And then, I like to augment the ability to produce your own GABA with things like theanine and glycine, at decent levels that can help the GABA axis.
Well, look, he says he tried Selank, but he was still on benzos at the time. So you really didn't try the Selank.
Not really a reasonable try. You need to get down at the person like that, if you were giving advice, would need to try to get as low as they could on their own, and then start working on some things, peptide. There's a couple of different peptides we can use to help in that scenario. And also the nutritional side of it, work on the lifestyle sleep part of it. It's a complicated process. It's not a matter of here's 2 of your peptides and I think you'll be okay. Call me quick.
So this is the last question. We'll answer it and then we're going to end the show. This one comes as a second question back from Casey. He said, what would you use for collagen support before the surgery? I guess he's asking for a brand of collagen. I personally like Great Lakes. Great Lakes collagen hydrolysate.
Sure, it's your show. I'll let you plug what you want to plug. There's a lot of good collagens, and that's one of them.
No, which one do you like?
I think Great Lakes is a wonderful brand. I actually use right now a lot of Designs for Health brand. It's a whole body collagen. It's reasonably priced, but again, collagen, if it's manufactured properly and is clean, Great Lakes is a wonderful brand. And
you know who else makes one now? Dr. Seeds. William Seeds just introduced the new collagen. Go to drseeds.com and check it out. He just introduced a new collagen product.
Yeah.
Tell him you heard about it here on Superhuman Radio. But that's one. And the other thing he asks is, where is the best place to buy BPC and TB4 combo? Well, that's a tough question. If you want to have it prescribed by your doctor, you should go to your doctor and have them contact Tailor Made Pharmacy in Nicholasville, Kentucky, and they can prescribe it for you. If you're looking for an alternative to pharmaceutical, prescribed, you can look to peptidesciences.com for a pretty reliable product. But theirs is for research purposes only, and it's marked as such on the label, so you should be aware of that. But really, just go to your doctor and tell him you want these 2 peptides. Tell him he can order them from Tailor Made Pharmacy. And if he doesn't know how to order, if he doesn't know how to use them, tell him to join the International Peptide Society and become a member, and they'll teach him how to use it and prescribe it. So there you go. Last question. I'm off the oh no, he's just telling us he's off the benzos 3+ years now. Bravo, that's awesome.
Congratulations. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to tell you something else. I shared this with Ryan over at TaylorMade. HCG right before bed has improved sleep architecture undeniably, because I've tried not using it a couple times, and I noticed my sleep was a lot worse.
Okay.
You think it's because of the luteinizing hormone production?
I suspect that's its primary impact. So
I bet you that would go good with some of these other peptides like DSIP.
Sure. All of the good stuff happens at 3 and 4 in the morning with your pituitary and pineal gland.
If you know the right people, that's true. Listen, this has been a great show. The medicaltransformationcenter.com is where you want to go. You want to get this stuff, Casey? Go to Dr. Paige. Contact him. Go to his website and contact him and learn about becoming a patient. And there you go. How's that sound? Sounds good. All right, that's it. It's Friday, and I am so glad it's Friday. I can't wait to go home and see Miss Elisa. All right, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we have lots of really good shows planned for next week. We're going to knock it out of the park with several of them, so don't miss them. We'll see you then.